Ever since the Blue Note label started releasing their Tone Poet series of reissues from 2019, I have been selectively adding a few to my record collection. One such album I'd like to share today with you is Bobby Hutcherson's Oblique. If you like vibraphone and percussion in your jazz, you have to check this one out. The crew on this album is Bobby Hutcherson on vibes, Herbie Hancock on piano, Albert Stinson on bass, Joe Chambers on drums. Recorded in 1969 at the Van Gelder Studio in New Jersey. Reissued as the Tone Poet LP in 2020. This record is really high quality, from the nicely laminated, durable outer jacket to the artwork inside and the super quiet record itself. A new copy costs roughly 40 USD. Opening the gatefold reveals neat photos of Bobby Hutcherson, Herbie Hancock, and Joe Chambers, sadly missing Albert Stinson, the bassist. The notes on the back of this album are also really cool. One can learn about Bobby Hutcherson's background, his early education and mastery of the piano and percussion, and that makes for a solid vibraphone player indeed. Also, Bobby Hutcherson's journey from the early 60s New York jazz scene and his collaborations throughout his career that made him one of the greatest jazz vibists. The sound quality from this record is superb. My main system consists of the Riga P10 turntable fitted with a Koetsu black moving coil. The phono stage is a Manley Chinook, amplifier is an Audio Research VSI 60, and my main speakers are the 4Pi model from Pi Speakers. The album has 6 tracks, 3 tracks on each side, and I love them all. The first track is called Till Then. It has an easygoing samba rhythm to it. Hutcherson's vibraphone sounds melodious, open and full-bodied tonally. And Joe Chambers' percussion work on the cymbals, hi-hats and snares sound rich, textured and airy. The interplay between Albert Stinson's bass and Herbie Hancock's piano playing is so enjoyable. It's like they're intertwined, dancing to the samba so well. The vibraphone and piano take turns on being in front of the stage, and the soundstage is expansive with nice layering of depth. This is one of those special tunes that will always stay with me. It has this haunting and melodious quality to it. Just a mere thought or remembrance of this tune while going on about my daily grind during the work week brings me a sense of peace and well-being. The next track is called My Joy, and it shows off the speed and technique of both Hutcherson on the vibes and Hancock on the piano. There is also a strong musical bass solo by Albert Stinson here. Amazing definition of the bass in the soundstage. The notes in the back of the cover describe how Stinson's recorded output is quite rare. The last track on the side is Theme from Blow Up. Herbie Hancock made the soundtrack to the 1966 classic movie Blow Up, directed by Michelangelo Antonioni. And this version is said to be, I quote from here, the only wholly jazz interpretation of any of the material from the film. Makes me want to watch this movie sometime soon. The next 3 tracks on side B are masterpieces as well. Subtle Neptune is another thoroughly samba tune. The speed, snap and attack and the articulation from Joe Chambers' percussion work and the perfect marriage between the vibraphone and the piano is a real musical treat. Watch out for the next track, Oblique. At the beginning of this track, Hutcherson's speed and technique on the vibes is displayed in full force. Along with the speed, the tonal complexity and the fullness of the vibes was definitely a 3D-like effect. Towards the end of the track, for about a minute or so, comes this bombastic, explosive drum solo by Joe Chambers. This is definitely one of those pieces to show off your speaker's dynamic capability and attack. Last track on this album is a musical bomb. It's called Bisectional. There is a brief but superb bass solo by Stinson. Also, another example of explosive percussion work by Chambers. This percussion work interlaced with piano and vibes gives this track an almost eerie and suspenseful atmosphere at times. This is also one of my favorite audiophile test tracks to showcase instrument timbre, dynamic range, textural details of the upright bass and percussion. To quote directly from the notes, Oblique is a sterling representation of Blue Note's final classic year before Alfred Lion departed and the corporate mentality eroded the quality of the label. Oblique is also a welcome addition to the scanty discography of Albert Stinson, bass virtuoso and victim of the jazz life. Stinson died when he was touring by an overdose in 1967. If you have not watched my video on some of my favorite audiophile albums, I'll post a card and I invite you to watch it now. Let me know in the comments what some of your favorite jazz albums are. Maybe they're my favorites too. And maybe I've not heard of some of them. I can certainly learn from you as well.